Today I'm going to talk about a very small stream within the whole AI spectrum. But we've built platforms that teams use across the enterprise as well, and we've built chatbots for customers. We built talk bots. So next time when you see someone calling from Singtel, it might not be a human, it might be an AI, and blame the team for us. So that's what we've built. Today I'm going to touch a very small section of what I see that people think it's a very small section, but I think that it's going to be huge in the future as well. Um, to start with, like, okay, so we've all seen chatbots, right? So we see chatbots since the start, when chatbots came into the picture, it was all text. Like people come and talk, and it'll just reply with you text and go. And when the years passed on, like I think even Gemini and ChatGPT, they caught up to it. So they thought like it's not interesting anymore, right? So you have because people like visuals. So end of the day, even if the chatbot, even whatever stream that you wanna, or whatever media platform, whatever it is, you people like UI. People actually want to see things. So that's how even with Gemini, you might have seen like people. I mean, there's a new canvas around on the right side. With ChatGPT, they're building out charts, I think, which was not there before. Yeah, so I mean, now if you think about it, it's not restricted to these major players, right? Like as organizations, we are also like interested to do that. So when we build chatbots, when we want to, we want people to get into and use these chatbots, we want to show like a consistent experience across the platform, right? So we have websites, we have apps, we have chatbots. So we don't want people to face when they go to chatbot, they see a separate offer. When they go to the website, they see a different offer. So we don't want that. So let me start with a few things, right? So okay, so this is one of the issues that we see, right? So in any enterprise, we see a website, an app, and a chatbot. So let's say for my company itself, or maybe any company, right? You go search for a plan, or maybe you want to search for a product. So the type, how you search for a product with an app, web and chat completely differs, because in a chat you have to ask, right? And the details that you get is also completely different. Within an enterprise, if you think about it, I mean, all of this will be done by different teams. Then I think the logic completely differs, right? So end of the day, like whatever you search in a web and app is completely different. So this is one problem that we see, that the logic and the implementation and the customer experience is completely inconsistent across the various platforms that within a single organization have. So let me go to the next step as well. So the previous problem was one of the problems. So let me show this, right? So show me a wireless headphone under $100. I mean, I'm sure nobody's going to ask like this, but then this is one of the possibility, right? So, and then he's asking one more thing, where check where my order is, and if these are better, maybe I should return, right? So I mean, of course, not three, maybe two intents. So how are we going to solve this, right? So if it's just conversational, if it's just text, you can answer for both. But if it's an UA based, how are we going to show two different things for this, or maybe three different things for this intent, right? So that is what my reference architecture, or maybe a POC, that what we can do for this, right? How we can solve this problem. So I'll later show what we're going to propose as well. So in this case, the customer sends one messy, like multi-part intent, and system is expecting one intent, because system is used to one intent, right? Like I'm used to solving one problem at a time. And the system also, like if it is just text based, of course 100 intents also is fine, but then if it is UI, you have to show one UI first, right? And the failure happens where the UX completely breaks down, like what to show here, and maybe the intent is not clear what to show. So right, so that's where the shift needs to happen, right? So currently what is happening is, you go to a chat, you go to a chatbot or web, whatever it is, right? So the whole logic or the flow is completely defined by the channel itself. I think we have to move away from the channel, and we have to go to intent first, right? So let's say we have to make sure what we need to show to the customer. We need to understand that first, and regardless of whatever platform it is, we need to make sure that the experience is consistent across. So that's what we are trying to aim at here. Okay, so when I say this, right? So when I say this, this whole Gen UI thing, people might think Are we going to generate like complete dynamic UI, right? So as part of enterprise, we are not allowed to do that. So Gen UI itself is spectrum. So we have free flow UI, we have a bounded UI. So even if you go to Gemini or maybe ChatGPT as well, they have raw HTML elements, which is like you can build it by itself. But then you even all these major players, they don't allow AI to completely randomly build UI, right? So they have some boundaries. So that's where this whole Gen UI, we have two types of um, streams where it is free flow UI. You can like you let the AI build its UI, right? And then there's a bounded UI. So in this, most likely will be, because we are all enterprises, we need to have some control. We'll be leaning towards the bounded UI. So let's say okay, just for you guys to visualize, I'll show a live demo as well. I mean demo as well after this. But let's say a request is being thrown, right? Like question is the question before. So that question is being asked, and AI will let you know what is the UI that you need to display, right? And then the orchestrator will decide. So if AI says completely random, so this orchestrator needs to be the guardrail above the AI, right? So this will decide whether it should be shown or not. So for example, right, you have 100 components within your enterprise. Now we let the AI choose within this boundary, right? So the responsibility of orchestrator is to make sure the AI is not like randomly creating UI, and the orchestration layer which put guardrails on top, and then the state lives in the system. I think I'll explain this in the demo as well. Again, to reiterate what I was saying, right? This is what we are doing right now. So all the major chatbots. When we built chatbots, it's purely text. When we started having product cards, let's say somebody searches for a product, right? So I search for an iPhone in ChatGPT, it shows iPhone images, right? So like how does it show that we are using a LLM to get the data, but then it defines the flow. So in this case, the customer is asking for a product comparison or maybe a product detail page, right? So it is binary routing as of now. So what we are saying is we define components. So maybe like you imagine your website, right? So you will have hundreds of components. You create a skill for each component. So you let LLM know, or maybe the AI know what is this component about, and let it choose what component to build. So if we do that, the possibilities are endless, right? Like you don't have to bound to a single byflow journey, or maybe I think the e-forms is the most important. I think I'll show in the next example as well. I think it's better to visually show it as well. um, yeah, I'll show the live demo now. Watch out for these three things, right? So first is intent to UI, how an intent is being used to generate an UI, and how state survives channels. I think this is one of the main problems that all the enterprise faces right now. And cross-domain portability as well. I think this is something I added because I didn't want to be my domain. Like it can be applied to any domain as well. Let me show the demo as well. Okay. Okay. So for the sake of example, right? So I didn't restrict it to telco itself. I mean, can be applied to any domain, right? So let's say I go into FutureTel. So this is a POC page which I built, right? This is a reference architecture. Again, I'm saying it can be used in multiple forms. Why I didn't restrict it to a single productionized version is because you can have your own implementation based on this, is what I feel. Okay, so I have a page here. So one more thing which I think going forward is like all these websites which have these mega menu, right? You have hundreds of pages lying behind it, and people are unable to find it. Like I don't think people will. I'm going forward. There might still be people who will be like going and clicking on pages, but I don't think that is the way going forward, right? So you have to, when they search for that, you have to render the pages here instead of asking them to go to that page. So that is the future that we're looking for. So if you look at it, this is a normal page where you have a web UI and an app UI and a chat UI, right? So in the web UI, let's say a customer is asking for like, why is my bill so high, right? So sorry. Yeah. So in this case, I'll explain one by one, right? So in this case, what is happening is you can do this by normal chatbots or LLM itself. So this is how it works. So when they ask, it's a single consistent experience overall. You are getting the data from LLM or maybe the systems behind it as well. But then you are also letting the LLM choose what UI to show. So this for this example, maybe it looks very straightforward. I'll show another example. So once, okay, you search this, right? So this is a bill breakdown component, and when I search for this, so it's going to show a roaming component. So the same component can be applied for any set of products, right? So you have a roaming plans here, you can have a phone plans. So how we are doing this is, so this is the comparison table. So when you search for this, right? So LLM is going to search, look at the message, and take an intent, and it will decide what component to show in the UI. So how we are showing, I mean, it's also, you might think like, what if it is showing different components different times, or maybe if it is showing a wrong component, right? So that's where you need to have, I mean, I'm in my way of having guardrail, I'm putting confidence percentage. So if the AI is having 95% confident, then it can show this. So in this way, I can put limitations to the AI saying that if you are only above 95 or 90% confident, show this. Otherwise, don't show, right? So you can always go to a backup component. And then it can also, I'll come back to this. There's one more thing here, right? So, yeah. So if you see here, so this cannot be done with the normal things, right? So I mean, the current implementation which we have. So you have two intents, right? Two intents here. Why is my bill high and I want to raise a waiver? This is one of the common things people ask, right? So you're showing a bill explainer component here where the customer can come and see why he was charged with more bill, and if needed, he can raise a dispute. Both can coexist. People can see it, and if there is a I mean, if you want to mismatch or different set of components also, it's completely possible. So you don't. So tomorrow I want to maybe have another component for this, or maybe another different use case itself. You don't need the developer to go and build it. I mean, of course, you need the component to be built, but you don't need the developer to go and implement it in the production with the routing logic, right? The routing logic is completely ignored. You are letting AI decide, right? So as long as you have the components registered in the registry, AI can decide from the component. So routing is almost completely taken out. And this multi-intent is also solved. So let's say, because multi-intent is not one, let's say for example, if you have a routing, very small routing, you have 100 combinations. When you talk about multi-intent, the combinations is huge. It is going to be huge, right? Because like it can be 3 intents, 4 intents, or maybe you have a byflow where you want to combine 4 flows together. So all this like routing logic, writing the routing logic is going to be very mundane. So this is the next way forward is what I see as well. Okay, so there's one more very important, I mean, very interesting use case I'll show as well. I don't know if all the organizations are facing it, or is it my organization only. So e-forms is something everybody wants, right? So you might have seen people reaching out to your doorstep, selling item, and all they have is an e-form. So for example, they sell, I mean, my organization itself, we sell fiber. So they knock your door, they say, hey, we have an offer. So once you agree to it, all they have is an e-form. You just need to fill in the e-form. But what happens in the backend, right? So you need to go, okay, so the team needs to go talk to a team, need to build an e-form, right? But going forward, it's not needed. If you look at it, the customer is asking for he's overcharged for $45, right? Now the UI is complete. So this is one sort of, the other spectrum is what I'm talking about. So this is completely free-form UI. So you have an overarching bounded Gen UI, and this is within that one component is free-form UI. So you let UI decide what fields it should show. So if you ask for a different question, it will still select the same component, but then the number of fields is going to be different, right? So you don't need to have pre-built forms, or you don't need to like different. The problem for the business right now is like they need to go and pre-configure all this. So for example, business need to, if you have a CMS, you might know like, I'll show this, right? So how this form works is like they need to drag and drop this text field, and drop down and everything. Once this is done, they go live. or maybe they go to a workshop, so they give a different offer. So they need to do all this. So when UI is there, I mean, sorry, when Gen UI is there, you let it create the fields for you. You don't need to build anything, right? So, but still within some boundaries is, and then one very important thing is like, if you see here, the customer has already told 45 and overcharged, right, for roaming. So if you see here, 45 and roaming are already pre-filled. So you don't need the customer to fill information which he already told, right? You can do this with plain text, like when you're replying with chatbots. But then with UI, pre-filling this is a game changer as well. I think it's very important for customers in terms of experience, because I think that makes the customer experience seamless and better as well, is what I feel. And one more thing with this is, I think, how I'll also show one more metric. So here on the left side, you can also see the entity is 90%, right? So which means it is able to extract 90% of the information from the chat, from the keywords, and it's able to hydrate into the component. So how this whole extraction works is, first there is a planner which plans the component. Once the component is identified, there is a hydrator which hydrates the data for you, right? So now the hydrator is able to hydrate 90% of the details for you, for what the customer is asking. And also it makes it seamless, because the same request, if the customer asks in app or chat, it's going to be the same, right? So the experience is consistent. I'll also switch to the other domain, just for for the sake of why not, right? Yeah. So you see the same form, but then for a completely different domain and completely different use case as well. If let's say, for example, I'll change the request here. Yeah, so this is what I'm talking about. So we never did this. This form was never created, and it's the AI that is creating this free flow, right? So that's what we are trying to do as well. So it can work across domains, whatever product you're selling, whatever website you have, whatever app you have, it can work like this. You can define your bounded UI, freeform UI as well, and the multi intent classification, multi workflow, and the possibilities are actually endless. And I mean, I have other metrics to show. I think not for this demo, maybe for other use cases. Yeah, I'll go to the slide. Let's go. Since it's me and the demo before the lunch, I'll try to finish it as fast as possible. Sorry. Actually, I wanted the demo at the last, but then I wanted people to understand before what I'm talking as well. So, is it working? Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, so I'll just reiterate few things before we go, right? So in this case, the model is just proposing, it's not inventing. We are not letting the model invent anything. We are giving it a boundary. We are creating predefined components, but within the components, it can reinvent everything, whatever it wants. I mean, it's up to us to decide whatever we want to implement, right? I think for now, the bounded one is the way to go for enterprises. But I think in the future, we don't know, right? I think we might not even know what is going to happen. So um, we'll see how, where it goes from there. Maybe it will be free form, like maybe it will generate whatever, even the whole website will be generated on the fly. um, and then the orchestrator owns the state and validation. So in this case, once the LLM proposes the component, the orchestrator is responsible for like letting the, I mean, whether to let this component shown to the customer or not, or it can like go to a default UI or maybe a workflow in the backend. And execution remains deterministic until some level, because we want to have control. As enterprises, we really want to have control. We don't want, I mean, of course people will think like it's very nice, but then end of the day, when we go up to the enterprise, they want some sort of a control, what to display to the customer. Don't want to be responsible and show something and then customer facing the issues in the customer side, right? Yeah, I think this question everybody would ask. Okay, so the current problem we have is like we are adding to the cost. For every request to chatbot, every request we ask, it's adding to the cost. Now I'm adding one more thing to the cost, where I'm letting the LLM choose the component as well, right? So it's going to increase cost, of course. But then if you look at it, I've built chat for my site. So when I build or search for the site, right? So once we deploy this, I go and look at what people are looking at, or maybe what people are searching at, right? I don't think it's more than 100 keywords. So for any enterprises, the top 100 keywords remains the same. It's not going to be increasing. So you don't need to really call LM for every use case. First use case, you can, I mean, first tier is cache, right? So almost 60 to 70% of the use cases you will be able to cache. Whatever the customer is saying, maybe some data you don't need to, I mean, because that falls under hydration, that anyways, inevitably you have to call. But then what component to choose, it is 60 to 70% will be from the cache. So you don't need to worry much about the cost. And you don't need a big LLM for this as well. So I'm using a GPT-4o mini. It works pretty fine. So in terms of cost, I think it's still manageable. And routing, if it is obvious intent, right? Let's say a customer is saying mobile plan, or maybe I want to buy a device, or maybe iPhone. It's like all these are like deterministic outcomes. You already know what to show. If the intent is messy, if the messages are messy, that's where you need to have the help of an LLM. So I think tier 1 and tier 2, you don't need to worry about much, because it's already handled without the LLM itself. Tier 3 is where like maybe if it's ambiguous, if the questions are really unavoidable, maybe 30%, it's still okay for an enterprise, is what I feel. Where you need to go to the actual LLM and pay for the cost as well. I think it also includes a little bit of latency. That's where the smaller model comes into the picture. But I think it's still manageable. Yeah. So what this is and what this isn't, right? So what this is a working reference pattern. It's not something. This is the way. We are not saying that this is the way you should go, because it's a flexible pattern. It's up to the organizations to take what pattern they want, right? So maybe if it's a small organization, I'm okay. So if it's my site, I'm okay to have a dynamic UI itself. So I don't care, right? But it's an enterprise organization. You have to lean towards the right side as well. So that's what we are saying about. And then, of course, it's not a replacement of your workflow engine. People might think you already have a workflow engine. No, this is not a replacement of this is to make sure that you're delivering consistent experience across the domains, and also like seamless go to live, right? So you don't need to worry too much on pre-build in the pre-build phase. And one more thing I want to reiterate as well, like if you have a customer who's like very, very like happy to go and do clicks, this is not the right way, right? So if he's happy to go do clicks, let him do clicks and reach the page. If the customer wants to reach via intent, he wants to converse with us, by that, then GenUI is a very good approach that we can follow as well. Yeah, I think that's what I have. I think I finished like 7 minutes before. I think what I'm asking for everyone is to stop asking what is the flow next, right? Like when customer talks to us, what is the next flow I should show? What is the next thing I need to display, right? So instead of that, think about what components, what are the options we have, what all we can show to him, how flexibly we can show to him. In my case, I can choose a phone, I can choose a plan. or maybe plan first, choose first, or number first. Like you are basically giving him all the options, and then let the customer choose whatever he wants, right? Yeah. So that's the reference architecture from my side. I think open to questions. Yes,
Awesome.
I know. Yeah.
Okay, I'll go first. I have two questions.
Yeah.
First, in the beginning, you mentioned about the trust score for the Gen
Confidence
AI,
score.
trust
Yeah, yeah,
confidence,
yeah.
yeah, confidence score, and I think that's going to be talk of the town after what AWS was hit with their infrastructure recently. So how do you do that in your setup over here?
Mm.
What are the metrics and how you are putting some guardrails around it, governance? Because I'm big on governance and trust, as you saw it earlier. So that's one part of the question. The other one is about the demo that you showed. I really liked some of the parts that you did and really amazing work and how you can reach out to B2B to kind of SMEs and how you can actually accelerate some of that. But a lot of that can be done by single sign-on using Google or Facebook or something. So why do we need to kind of go this way? Just trying to understand more technically how and why was this choice done?
You mean? Oh, okay. Well, I'll answer from the first one.
Yeah.
What's the first one again? Sorry. First one was the
Trust score.
yeah confidence score. Yeah, yeah. I think the confidence score is just a metric that I define for this particular reference architecture. It's up to each of us to define whatever we want, right? Like for me, when I saw this, when this whole Generative came in, I was like, how do I put some boundaries to it, right? So that is one of the metrics I actually maybe started putting some confidence, saying that only if you are like 95 or maybe to some extent. So that 95% itself is a calculation from my side. So it's up to each of us to have some sort of a calculation. Let's say so the confidence is one, right? So let's say if you have like websites or you might have sections within your organization. So if you are within this section, you might want to show a different theme or a different way of answering, right? Then that is one of the metric for you. So confidence is not only the single metric that you define on. So it's up to us to define. As of now, I'm using confidence, or maybe that's what I'm. Maybe when we explore more, of course there are multiple other metrics that we can depend on as well. The second question, okay. So in terms of single sign-on, it will of course it'll of course make us understand who's the customer for sure, right? But then what he's asking, we will never know unless we understand what the intent is, right? We also have customers who come in, they log in, but then once they log in, they have like inside SSL we sell a lot of things, but then we don't know what he really is looking for. He might say the particular usually bill is high and he wants to change something, but then whether it's anonymous or an existing customer or what, I mean, knowing the customer is one problem that we are solving, right? But then what he really is looking for is something maybe that will help to understand. Yeah.
No, that was not my question. My
Okay.
question was about, you mentioned that the UI will pre-fill a lot of
Yeah.
details and information about the customer.
Yes.
So I was like, why can't we do it using SSO? I mean, of course, what you're saying needs to be
Yes. Yes. Yes.
augmented. That's fine. Because if you're finally adding more layers to the UI and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
asking it to retain more information, you're increasing the tokenization and you're
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
so I'm just trying to understand why this way and not
No. Okay.
so
So
to capture the customer
sure,
information.
sure, sure. I think in terms of customer information, even we do, right? So we don't let the customer. Of course, once he's logging, we will never ask the customer to pre-fill his own personal information. But what you saw is not his information, right? It is the complaint he's talking about. He's talking about $45 and roaming charge. Of course, if we knew, we might even show him before, hey, are you here to talk about this $45 off? I mean, that's something we can discuss about. So if we already knew that this customer is already having a high bill of maybe $50 extra, I can show him before. But if I didn't know, then that intent I need to hydrate and show it in the component. But other than that, like you are 100% right. We will never ask the customer to refill or pre-fill information or maybe fill information that we already know, like the customer data. I mean, we won't even show in the UI. That will be in the backend. We'll be able to take. Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so back in the day, early 2000s or something, it would always show up, or not always, but one of the alternative data, right? So when you would build like fraud models, one of the things that would always kind of pop up would be how someone hesitated to answer a question online. And for example, are you married? So that's like a stumbling block for fraudsters, typically. So what kinds of new variables do you see these days on this kind of platform in terms of fraud?
Uh, I mean, not in terms. I mean, we've. How to say? I mean, I don't know if I can share more also. When you're running a big enterprise, right, we face a lot of problems. Like, even we face bomb threats, right? So we have to report those. And fraudsters, of course, people might say, I mean, people might claim, I saw something in the UI. I saw, maybe I'm already selling a plan only for $50, and he might add few things and say, maybe he can just change it in the UI, right? So people can do a lot of things. He can say, I saw the bill was only $100. When I went to purchase, it is showing $1,000, or maybe it is showing like $200, right? So these kind of things is existing, but I think we have to fall back on. I mean, in terms of AI itself, right? So we have to turn back and whatever the process that we follow at the moment, because in terms of deterministic approaches, let's say price calculation, we still have little more way to go in terms of trusting AI. So in those places, for sure, I think human in the loop at the moment is what we do, right? So if we think it's a fraud, or if we think it's a threat, we will I mean, we have in the backend that will trigger alerts to the actual human, that who can look into it. So the existing process will be there to help us in that case. But I think in terms of that, so far, that is what we've been using. Yeah, even for fraud as well. Yeah. I think one more question. Yeah.
Firstly, thanks for the presentation, and I feel it's a very innovative concept as well when you're talking about generative UI. But I also see a lot of disruption when it comes to breaking the software development lifecycle, because when we are normally developing, there's a stage of development, then there's testing, there's UAT, and etc. So when you're breaking the whole lifecycle here, when you're basically generating UI on the go, and for example, let's just take that feedback example that you had given, right? So when it is, let's say, generated on the go, is there a framework that is being put into place wherein those principles of UAT or any testing frameworks are being also tested in real time before that generated UI is being displayed to the customer? And how is this adoption going to impact the bigger enterprises? That's my second question.
I mean, very good question. I mean, we are all coming from big enterprises, and this AI SDLC is something very, very difficult to knock the high people there to make sure like we are pretty fast. I think the feedback example is very good use case, because lot of systems, right? Like, you can just have an e-form, but then what it does is it just goes to a system, and somebody needs to go and manually look at it, or maybe you have AI to look at it right now. But I think in terms of one way to do it is, you have your backend designed for these kind of use cases. This is the values that I'm expecting. Show only these fields, right? So that will make sure it is seamless. Even though it is free flow, it is only showing the fields that the actual backend wants, right? So that is one way to do it, to fasten the whole UAT. Otherwise, there's no way, right? Because I'm also building my own evaluation platform. How do we evaluate these scenarios? Very, very difficult, right? So that is one way, is what I see. So the other way is to maybe have some sort of scenarios that are pre-existing, so that like you use eval to run it, and then evaluate what are the fields that have been exposed, and whether it is relevant to us or not, right? So whether do we need this field or not. So that is the only way as of now, is what I feel. Maybe because of this disruption, I think we might need to find innovative ways to fix that issue as well. And in terms of AI SDLC, that's something we are also working on to fix the whole workflow doesn't work anymore. So we are all using AI methodology going forward. I think we need to change that as well. Yeah, how the whole development testing comes into the picture. So otherwise, it will be very, very, we'll be very slow to the market.